I'm Catherine, and I'm MD for Dacxi in the UK. So a huge welcome. As Squid says, I think we've got something like 130 people expected. We've got people joining all the time. So absolutely wonderful to see so many of you on. We've got a huge variety of countries, backgrounds, ages, people that work full-time in crypto, to those that have it as a side hustle, to those that just have a passing interest, people that have been in it for years, people that are just getting started. And this event was actually born of an online meetup we did called Women of Dacxi. So as a business, we are bizarrely female predominant. We're about 50% with our headcount and at least 50% in our affiliate distribution. Just to compare, I've worked for a couple of fintech and banking businesses that have been between 95 and 98% male. So it makes us very unusual in a fintech and a crypto business. So we had this meetup. We had about 40 people meet probably about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago now. It was very informal. We had an evening meetup. We all had a bit of wine and we were just really swapping stories. We very much see ourselves as a community. So I'm beyond delighted to be hosting so many people today and introducing so many speakers that I think a lot of both personally and professionally. And one of the things we talked about on that meeting a few weeks ago was some data that Cointelegraph put together at the back end of last year, which was looking at differences between how men and women view and are involved in crypto. And they actually found, bear in mind this was, I think, the second week of December, that women were significantly more positive around Bitcoin growth. So remembering that's December last year. And they were right, we're actually up about 30% from the start of the year. In less good news, 93% of people surveyed said that they would be more open to crypto as an asset class if more educational resources were available. So that means that 93% of women that were asked thought that the education in our space was not good enough, which is something that Dacxi has sought to address and why we're so delighted to be sponsoring this evening. Another thing that was interesting about that survey was that a lot of women perceived themselves and were more likely to rate themselves as less investment savvy than men, which certainly speaks to the perfectionist in me. So from that meeting a few weeks ago, we've managed to grow to what we believe is the largest meetup for women who crypto, which is now. So we're making history, so just so thrilled and proud to be part of it. So for those of you that are part of the very necessary and very boring lockdown, if your kids or your partner are driving you up the wall, they certainly are for me. I hope you enjoy the content this evening. So, or this today for the UK, of course. So the format for today, and a bit of housekeeping. The format is super informal. I know that some of the networks that are listening in from New Zealand and Australia have got wine, which is wonderful. Not much good to me. It's not even lunchtime in London, but I salute your thinking nonetheless. So we've got some great guests this evening. They're all real women who are involved in crypto. Bar two professional speakers, they're just normal people that have got involved and done well out of crypto. Some with some hiccups on the way, as you'll hear about, and they are happy to share their experiences with you, which is wonderful. So I'll be interviewing them. We don't have anything to sell you. We don't have any complicated slides or graphs. And we've certainly not got any weird jargon that would be better suited to a PhD economics class. So the content we're going to run through this evening, we actually surveyed a broad sample of women that are involved with Dacxi, and we wanted to know the questions that they were desperate to ask. So the content for this evening is very much crowdsourced from all of you, so many thanks to those that contributed. And it's a very candid chat, so there's plenty that's gone on in the industry, there's plenty that's been wrong about the industry as it grew up and came of age. So we're very much going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We really want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you look at the bottom slide, bottom strip on the screen, you'll have a chat button and a Q&A button. Please use both, particularly if anything that speaks to you or you can relate to, just feel free to comment as the speakers are talking. In fact, if you can say hi to me right now in the chat, just so I know you're all listening and you can all see it, that would be marvelous. So any questions you can put in Q&A. Great, I can see them all flashing up, that's wonderful. Or if you're feeling shy, you can private message me. I'm going to be controlling questions today and hosting. So if you're feeling shy, feel free to just ask me directly. And of course, I'll make sure your question is anonymous and I'll field any questions to the speakers on your behalf. We're also very excited to do some polls today. So as we go through, there'll be a couple of very short little questions that we're going to ask you. We're making history. This is the biggest meetup, we believe, of women who crypto. So we just had a couple of questions. And of course, all the responses that are collated, of course, are anonymous. And I think Kate and Elisa are my glamorous assistants. They'll be assisting me with that. So some background on probably me personally might be useful. So this is as MD for Dacxi in the UK. It's my third blockchain and crypto industry role. So right now I'm MD for Dacxi in the UK, and prior to that I was an advisor for a tokenization platform, which as I left we were actually listing property for Sotheby's, the super posh auction house. I still sit on the board for a health tech business which uses blockchain, and I've had a very long career in fintech and disruptive technologies. So prior to Dacxi, I actually worked for a capital markets technology firm where I worked with tier 1 banks, some of the world's largest asset managers and hedge funds. And I could see as I left there was a lot broken with the infrastructure, and the future was ripe for change to the benefit of all the end users. I've also worked in peer-to-peer lending, where at the time I built out what was Europe's largest lender by its asset class, and as well as a specialist bond issuer. So I'm personally very regularly quoted in the press, whether it's trade or mainstream, on fintech, blockchain and crypto. So there's a couple of questions I'm going to ask every speaker today. Why did you get involved in crypto? So I should probably start with my own answer. So I feel right now there's a wealth crisis. That's something that myself and the other speakers that put out webinar content for Dacxi talk about a lot. We've had $9 trillion estimated wiped off global wealth due to the coronavirus recession. All the analysis points to the fact we're going to have a substantial global recession. Unemployment in the major economies is rife. The stock market's at an all-time high. It's likely that property is going to see a crash, with financing being difficult and rental yields dropping. In the UK, they estimate that 40% of tenants will be unable to pay their rent in the coming months. And right now in the UK, it's estimated that around half of the UK workforce is currently on furlough, so being paid by the government to sit at home as part of a job retention scheme. And someone's got to pay for that in the long term. Governments all over the world are printing money. And I've written a lot in the media recently that there's a real sense that the current infrastructure is not fit for purpose. So I'm not here to depress you. Crypto is really seen as a new dawn. It's providing a lot of answers. My personal view is that crypto will not replace traditional banks and banking, but it's my opinion that it will be a solid and viable alternative to the current system. So crypto has very much come of age recently. In my day job, I get to meet people like Squid that invested 4 or 5 years ago in crypto. And whilst I applaud their bravery, the majority of people that use our platform just coming to the table now, they're getting involved fairly recently, and they simply wouldn't have got involved 3 or 4 years ago. So many of our users are diversifying for the first time. And I think it's fair to say that crypto is holding its own since coronavirus. It has recovered harder, faster and stronger than traditional investments, particularly that refers to Bitcoin, Litecoin and Ethereum. A lot of the speakers today will talk about the kind of experience they've had both in crypto and particularly comparing it to the sort of normal vanilla sort of investments that you tend to find. So you'll hear a lot about the gains our speakers have made and over what period and how they've done that. And as a business, Dacxi puts out a lot of free education and events around those themes. And unsurprisingly, we get huge levels of interest. So that's enough from me. Without further faff, I just have a couple of things I was supposed to click through that I forgot. So we've got a jam-packed agenda, and we're going to try and make the speakers thematic just to keep the content moving along. So quite a lot of content to rattle through, so I'll try and keep people on the point and moving forwards. A quick disclaimer that the information that we present this evening is not investment advice, financial advice or trading advice. The speakers' views expressed are their own and not necessarily those of Dacxi. So look, I really hope you enjoy this evening, and without further faff, can I just find Rish? Rish, could you just unmute yourself? So just whilst we're doing that, I'll just introduce Rish. So Rish has got one of the longest careers in crypto of all of our speakers. And she kindly agreed to talk us through what she believes to be the very foundation of crypto as must-have knowledge. So Rish, a warm welcome. Are you off? Are you off mute?
Hi.
Sorry, hi. Sorry, I'm just going to pin your face. So that sounds very aggressive. I will pin you on Zoom. So look, just whilst I'm working on the technology, could you just, first question, tell us a bit about your background? That would be fantastic.
Okay, hi to everybody. I was born in Zimbabwe, and when I left school, I did a commercial art course. So I was very arty. We immigrated after the war to Australia, and I auditioned at the Western Australia Performing Arts, and I studied dance in Perth. So my background is dancing teacher, art, modeling teacher, nothing to do at all with finance. And then about 17 years ago, I had a dancing school. It was great when the kids were small because, you know, I could be at home with them and then teach in the afternoon. But I thought, no, I really want to do something where I can make some serious money. I married a man who was in ministry, so I always joke I never married him for his money, and so we needed to make some money. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get involved with property. And because we weren't on a very high income, no one would lend us money. So I thought, well, I'll become a mortgage broker, and I'll learn how to get this money that we're going to need. And so what I started doing was I got a diploma in finance, and I had my own business. And the clients that I had, I sourced house land packages for them. I hired people away from the builders, so we could gain a lot of equity. We could gain a lot of equity in the house and land. Sorry, there's a bit of background noise happening.
Sorry, you keep talking. I'll just go and mute them through. There's some of the later additions. Sorry, you're doing great.
All right. Yeah. So I got involved with property and finance and made my clients a lot of money. And then we went through the GFC. Things started changing. I was a finance strategist for property developers. And I was just about to do a joint venture with a couple. And I was really getting quite disillusioned with the banks because my heart is really to help people. And I just really felt that sometimes, yeah, I just felt that the banks were pretty much a ripoff a lot of the times. And then when I was about to do this joint venture, I was sitting at the table talking about this joint venture, and someone said to me, have you heard about Bitcoin? Have you heard about digital currency? And that was 4 years ago. And I'd never heard of it.
And what made you get involved? What kind of piqued your interest and made you kind of take that leap of faith? Obviously, you've got a financial background, but what made you kind of think, right, crypto is something I'm interested in?
Well, firstly, if you're wanting to purchase a property or do a development, it costs a lot of money. You've got stamp duty, you've got all sorts of things. With cryptocurrency, it's a bit like buying shares. You can put as little money or as much money as you like.
So you haven't got to buy a whole Bitcoin. So you don't need, 10,000 to get involved. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. They think Bitcoin's $12,000 or whatever it is. No, you can buy a portion of that Bitcoin. Okay. And then you can add to that as you go along. So that was one of the things. Yeah.
Okay, great. So look, why don't you talk about what crypto is? Obviously that's great that you found the sort of entry level that you were comfortable with, but why don't we just take it back to basics and talk about what crypto is and, you know, some of the people that are involved in it?
I'm going to try and keep it simple because sometimes when it's explained too complicated, it's very hard to understand. And I'm not a tech person anyway, so that's not my background. It's a digital or virtual money, and it exists only in electronic form. I think that's the simplest way. It's a bit like saying it's email money. I can send you $100 right now, and you'll get that while I'm talking to you. And there will be a transaction on the blockchain from my wallet. As long as I put the address in correctly, it'll be sent to your wallet, and that's recorded on the blockchain. And there's no, it's totally trustless. You don't have to worry about, you know, anything. It's going to be recorded. So it's digital. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So why don't you talk, obviously that is significantly more efficient than what we currently have. Bitfinex has recently reported moving $1.1 billion worth of Bitcoin at a cost of 68 cents. So obviously lots of companies are interested in it coming to the table. So can you tell us about some of the sort of famous companies, if you like, that are getting involved with blockchain and with the cryptos?
Well, that's the great thing for people getting in now, because things have changed. When I got in, it was quite scary. It was quite new. And now huge companies are getting involved with cryptocurrency and with the blue chip coins like Bitcoin Ethereum Litecoin.
Very
And
good.
the companies are Amazon, Starbucks, Fidelity, which trades in $7.3 trillion worth of pension funds. Backed has joined with the New York Stock Exchange. They have a cryptocurrency platform. NASDAQ, I mean, IGA, some IGAs, you can, I mean, we have a solar company and we accept Bitcoin and Litecoin. So
Wonderful.
It's people would be surprised how many companies are involved and spending billions of dollars.
Okay, great. So you mentioned that your business accepts it, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a bit about how someone normal, me or anyone listening on this call, how would you, in the fullness of time, as more people adopt the cryptos, if you bought Bitcoin and thought, right, I want to go and sort of pay for the grocery store or what have you, talk about how they'd be able to spend that, which of course you can do today. Could you just talk a little bit around that for us?
Well, it's early days, so it's going to become easier and easier. But there's several ways you can convert crypto to a bank account. You can sell your Bitcoin on an exchange, and you can change that to whichever currency you want.
Sure.
You can withdraw it from an ATM, and there's no Forex fees.
Very good.
So you can convert crypto to cash. There's visas getting on board. You just got to be careful because some of these places will charge fees. But 10x is a card that you can use to spend Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum online and offline.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of people wouldn't even realize I could go to a coffee shop and use my Bitcoin to buy a coffee just by swiping my card, and that would convert to Australian dollars.
Wonderful. And look, you look at some of the world's biggest payment companies that are involved now, the PayPals, the MasterCards, the Visas, these are the world's biggest payment businesses. So look, can you just talk a bit, obviously we're going to talk over this presentation about all the different cryptos that are out there. Just to sort of clear up from the get-go, could you just talk briefly about the difference between coins and tokens? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. Coins are a native currency on a blockchain. So a coin is Bitcoin, Litecoin.
Sure.
ETH is the coin on the Ethereum blockchain. A token is built on top of a blockchain.
Sure. Okay.
So, and there are lots of tokens. I think there are over 200,000 tokens. And tokens are built, as I said, on top of the blockchain. And the most popular tokens are ERC20 tokens. And some of them are EOS, Tron, Amizigo. Dacxi is an ERC token. So does that explain it? Or would you
perfect. And look, and we're going to talk over this presentation about, we have a section on are all coins created equal? So we'll be talking about some of the differences. So look, final question, and I'm going to ask everybody this. Why are you personally excited about crypto? Obviously, you've been involved in it a long time, which is wonderful. Why are you excited today? And just briefly, where do you see the industry going? Which is a very broad question, I know, but just your take on that would be wonderful.
Well, I've been following the economy, and we are going to have a financial reset sooner or later.
Oh.
We're printing money that's backed by nothing, and that's another thing that with cryptocurrencies, we've got faster transactions, lower fees, and the transactions are recorded cryptographically, so they're totally safe. It's a trustless system, and it's hedged. It's hedged against inflation, and it's a fixed supply. None of this our fiat money offers us. Our fiat money is our paper money. So things are going to change. And as much as it's going to be fantastic to also diversify into gold and silver, you can't go to a coffee shop and buy a cup of coffee with a chunk of gold.
Sure. We
are already, I think people just don't realize we're already digital. Banks are already taking on board digital. So it's not like, will it happen? It is happening. And it's just going to unfold more and more. So for people to get in now is it's just a huge opportunity because we're getting in at the beginning.
Of course. Wonderful. Great. Thanks, Rish. And thank you so much for being the first speaker. I know that's a really big ask. So great. I will just mute you off. Look, I've been ably assisted today by Elisa and Kate. We do have a poll question, which, forgive me, didn't quite work. Elisa, could you just see if you can run that first poll question for me if possible. So hopefully there will be, wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. As you know, all of these are very much a group effort. So look, please vote. These answers are put up live. So I am personally sitting in the UK. So if you could just pledge where you are, that would be really interesting information to us. So I know we've got a lot of people listening from New Zealand and Australia. I know a lot are in the UK. So we're just keen to see whereabouts you guys are all listening from. I'll just let that run for another couple of seconds. Great stuff. Okay, so I think, do I need to run that poll, I think, Elisa? So I'll just, that's it, well done, thanks. So yeah, as we thought, very highly focused in APAC and UK, which is wonderful. Thanks, guys. Okay, so I just want to introduce my next speaker. Vicky, you're up next. So Vicky, if you could just unmute yourself, that would be perfect. So I want to introduce Vicky Parker, who is a very modest, and probably won't tell you this, but she is a best-selling author on self-esteem and self-empowerment. She's a true entrepreneur across numerous sectors, and no surprise, she's been instrumental in assisting us in setting up the Women Who Crypto group. And I wanted to invite her for her take on why women get into crypto and why there's lots of information that we're actually better at it than the men. I've been following a lot of analysis around the countries that are doing much better about getting themselves out of coronavirus. And there's a lot of information that the countries with female prime ministers are doing well. So no surprise that Vicky's talking to us from New Zealand. Are you there, Vicky? Are you on?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Great. Very good. So whilst I am just finding you. So look, first question, could you, I've given a little bit of information, but could you tell us a bit about your background, please? That would be great.
Okay. So I live in New Zealand, but I'm English, and I was brought up in a little village called Frodsham, which is near Liverpool. And I think I saw Lorraine on here earlier on. Actually, her partner was telling me the other month that he actually went out with a girl from Frodsham. So we're all right, we're okay, according to Gavin. And I left Frodsham when I was 18 and went to university in London. And I fell in love with London, and I lived there for 15 years. And then in the year 2000, I was basically taken on holiday to New Zealand on false pretenses. And 20 years later, I've strung out that holiday as long as possible. I'm still here. I've had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, so I've had to learn to love rugby. And I have basically, while I've been in New Zealand, I have owned and run about 3 businesses. So one of them was a global training company. I also had a ambient advertising company, which had smart cars in, which we used to wrap in advertising. And also a beauty company, where I sort of developed a whole load of cosmetics and things. So, but my real love, as Catherine said, is women's self-development. I've always sort of, I mean, really, it was 25 years ago that I got into that industry. My partner and I were partners in one of the largest personal development companies in Europe. And we used to promote people like Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer. We were their agents. And so I sort of went quite deep into women's personal development and started doing some speaking on it and wrote a book, which was then published in 11 different countries. So really my self-development background is actually really one of the reasons why I got into cryptocurrency. Because cryptocurrency basically has the power for women to take control of their lives. And, you know, there is a really nice correlation there. So that's excellent about me.
And so obviously to have helped Tony Robbins build his $1 billion brand is wonderful, and to have made it your own is fantastic. So we talk to loads of women that are embracing crypto for reasons of financial freedom and independence. And of course, crypto doesn't care how old you are, you know, what your education was. And I think particularly all the speakers we have today are from such a massive variety of backgrounds. Why do you think women, what do they have that makes them good at crypto, do you think?
Look, first of all, I think women are vital in shaping this industry. Straight off the top, obviously, naturally, we are amazing communicators and educators. So cryptocurrency is a really complex subject, and women have a very good way of basically taking complex subjects and distilling them down into words that people can understand. And when I went down the rabbit hole of cryptocurrency about 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a lot of blockchain conferences up in Asia, and honestly, I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was like another language. I used to come out of those meetings with my ears were like the monge at the end of it. It's moved on a lot since then, and it's become a lot more palatable in the way that we can understand it. But women are very, very good educators, and so that's one of the reasons. Secondly, we're really great at forming, communities, and to get widespread adoption of Bitcoin, we need a great community around it. Sure. And so women are the social connectors. We're what it's like, with your friends, as a couple, your friends. It's always the women that it's always her friends that you're
the diary.
Out with. So anyway, so we're great at getting people together, and also we are, the original social network. We're great on Facebook, we're great on Instagram and all that sort of thing. So we're very good at passing on information to other people, and it's our sort of social currency. So, but I think the thing that actually is the most important thing in all of this is that really for women, we're actually quite passionate about cryptocurrency, and not because of cryptocurrency itself, it's because of what it can actually do for us. And for the first time in history, we are basically being included in helping to build and shape a financial industry that is inclusive of women. And, it has been a bit of a boys' club in the past, and that's sort of nobody's fault, because socialization through the millennia has always meant that women have actually been kept on the outside of it. But we're at this really pivotal moment in time where women can help shape this new financial system. And I think when you talk to people, you can see the passion in women's eyes and the excitement that they can convey about cryptocurrency, simply because, we're included. And as you said before, Catherine, Bitcoin couldn't give a rat's whether you are female or male or, black or white or purple or green or pink. It doesn't care. If you are a woman in Africa, you have the same amount of ability to leverage yourself into Bitcoin as a, financial institution on Wall Street does. So it's a really exciting time, for women. I think we really sort of convey that in our passion when we're talking and sharing the, excitement.
Very good. Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about the crypto being fairer. And I think the world's going to look so different post-coronavirus, that I think there's a lot of sense of, look, the infrastructure is not fit for purpose. Let's rip it out. I was reading your piece on medium.com, and I like the bit where you said that crypto has got a lot of mansplaining jargon in it. So do you think you need to be sort of technical and financial to make money out of it? Can you just talk us a little bit around that, and perhaps how you'd be able to educate yourself if you were coming to the table new, which, look, every single speaker today, me included, at some point was new to the party. So yeah, do you have to be technical, and what's the best way to educate yourself? Yeah, look,
no, the short answer is no. You don't have to be technical or financial in the same way that you don't have to be technical or financial to, do internet banking. But what I would say is that I believe that you need to educate yourself.
Sure. No one else can do it for you.
No.
Yeah, you have to seek it out. Okay.
And so, you know, I think you should get involved with this industry, join the community, but you do need to educate yourself. And the reason for that is because education just gives you confidence and, sure. And the information to go out there and talk to people, social currency again. And so education is incredibly important for another reason, really, insofar as that I think cryptocurrency is it's not just an investment. Cryptocurrency is actually, to me, it's a belief system. And in order to sort of, you know, get your head around the, you know, the very big highs and the very big lows, and to develop a tolerance around that, sure. I think you really need to understand why that happens and, sure. and where the industry is going. So education is key.
Right, education. And I think we're going to talk a lot in this presentation about some of that volatility, which I think we have to acknowledge. So look, understand the message that education is what you need to do. How can an interest in crypto fit around pressures? Because I'm the worst. You know, by the time you've got a job and a family and you try and go to the gym and you're trying to feed them food that's not rubbish. Loads of you I know listening are homeschooling, me included. Look, there's a lot of pressure. So how do you feel that crypto can sort of fit into, let's just say, you know, I don't know a woman that's not busy. I don't know about you, but how can that fit into all the other pressures that we've all got?
Well, you know, how does any long-term investment financial planning fit into, you know, your day-to-day life? It just does. If that's,
you have to make time.
You have to make time. You know, what I will say is that obviously the physical act of investing in cryptocurrency takes moments.
Sure.
The time is in the actual educating yourself.
Sure.
And so again, you know, the easiest way to do that and for it to all to fit in is to basically join a community of like-minded people where you feel comfortable, where you can dip in and out of webinars and seminars and learning situations. And I'm just talking about from this particular community that, you know, sure. we're all part of. There is so much education going on. There are webinars going on all the time. So if you are a busy mum, you can come home, you know, once you've had dinner, got kids to bed, you know, pour a glass of wine, have a coffee, and you can sit down and just join in sure. one of the webinars because they are going on most evenings. Sure. We've got some extremely prolific and an amazing educators, Andy Scalari, who we're really sort of lucky to have. He's basically running webinars most days in the evening. And so it's very easy actually to become a part of this whole system of learning. And also, you know, social media, from our point of view, obviously we've got a lot of stuff going on social media. Very easy. Everybody's on Facebook and Instagram all the time. So you can pick up things really, really quickly.
So and dipping out when it suits you. Yeah. And goodness knows, you know, my to-do list after I've got kids to bed is like War and Peace novel length. So look, I just want to ask you really briefly, because I'm conscious of time. Obviously your background is very much in sort of that self-esteem, self-empowerment. Would you say that the goal setting is important? So you're kind of thinking, you know, do you set goals around your wealth? Do you set goals around how many, you know, what kind of money you want to have involved? Talk about some of the sort of the goal setting you can apply to crypto.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, goals, this is not financial advice, obviously, but I think goal setting around finances is extremely important because basically it keeps you motivated, you know, focused, and you stop flying around all over the place. So I would say most people have got, you know, the first thing you've got to do is just sort of work out what you want in life. Then put some goals around that. So you may have short-term goals, long-term goals. Short-term goals, for example, would be maybe trying to set up put money away for an emergency fund for a rainy day, like, you know, COVID-19. Long-term goals might be trying to plan for early retirement or, you know, to pay a mortgage off. And so once you have those things, ideals in mind, you have to sort of basically work out how much do I need to actually for that to happen. So I would then put money away consistently every month into crypto,
course, yeah.
and do that consistently. I would get involved. I wouldn't flip flop into funny coins and this and the other. You need to keep focused on solid projects and follow them through to maturity, and also make sure that you basically get a diverse portfolio of
very good
blue chip coins.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and final question, really sorry to put pressure on you, 20-second answer. Why are you personally excited about crypto and where's the industry going?
Okay, look, before COVID-19, crypto was on for a ballistic year anyway, simply because, you know, we've got every single government in the world who is moving towards, you know, digitalization of their currency. You know, everybody's looking at, everybody in and every industry in the world is looking at blockchain. Every institution in the world is investing heavily in cryptocurrency at the moment, and all the banks are getting into crypto. We are heading towards digitalization of the world, you know, at breakneck speed, no question. So, you know, all good. But then when you throw in a really cataclysmic thing like COVID-19, which highlights how crap the banks are, and all of their sort of failings and flaws, then you basically move cryptocurrency to the center stage, which is what's happening at the moment.
Absolutely, no, I agree.
And so we're at this inflection point, or this intersection, where basically, you know, on one side we've got this, you know, this global meltdown of finance that's happening, and on the other side we have got this really potent technology called cryptocurrency, which has the ability to solve the grandest problems of the world that we have at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
quite right.
You know, what I would say is, for the ladies on this call, is that it's imperative that you get involved in some way, because in this world of turmoil that we have at the moment, we need to secure our futures for ourselves and our families, and we need to do that together. We need to help each other and do that together. And so get involved in a community. But as I said, there's no stupid questions. And let's build a financial security together, you know, and keep ourselves safe for the future.
Great. Thanks, Vicky. That's all amazing content. Thank you so much. So great. I will just mute you off. Elisa, could I possibly have our next poll question? That would be marvellous. So that's just coming. Oh, wonderful. So just keen to survey who has already bought coins, yes or no. So really interesting to see who is early on in their journey. And who is just getting started. So it looks like predominantly 80–90% of people listening today have already bought, which is wonderful. I've just let that run for another couple of seconds. Like Shireen saying, a big yes, I've bought coins. That's brilliant. So great. Just let a couple more tickle in. So yeah, I'll just share the results. I'll share before everyone has commented, just to keep the order running tight. So that's 85% of people listening to this call have already bought, which is wonderful. So if I could, we've done that poll question. If I could just ask Nikki, if Nikki, you could unmute yourself, my love, that would be amazing. And whilst she's just getting together, to introduce Nikki, Nikki's going to talk today. She's been in crypto for several years. I don't know anyone who is more detail focused. Her appetite for asking more and better questions is just phenomenal. Her background is IT training and documentation and compliance in some of the world's most regulated industries. So she is well placed to talk about some of the infrastructure issues for crypto, and of course, keeping yourself safe in the crypto environment. And I think as an industry, crypto has to acknowledge there's been some real horror stories out there. I've also got to shout out that I think Nikki, out of all of our speakers, has got more followers on this call than anybody else. So clearly a bit of a Nikki fan club this evening. So thank you for joining us. So Nikki, you're off mute, my love, as far as I can see. Let me just pin your face and put it on the screen. So look, could you start, I know I've talked a little bit, but can you tell us a bit about your background and how and why you got involved? That would be great.
Have I put myself off mute? Yes.
Yes, yeah, you're off. That's wonderful. Far away.
Okay, fantastic. So, Catherine, yes, originally, let me start a bit about my background. I'm originally from South Africa, and I've lived in the UK for the last 20 years. My degree is in English and psychology, and I have a postgraduate degree in education as well.
Very good.
The last 25 years, I've worked, as you said, in the IT industry as a training consultant for a variety of different organizations across banking, pharmaceutical, technology industries. And for me, that was always about empowering people with technology so that they could gain confidence in their workplace. And finally, actually, I left 6 weeks ago to dedicate my time to my passion, which is to empower people on all levels in different domains of their lives. I love to learn new things. I've been an ongoing student of self-development and transformational principles, and I now practice as a transformational life mastery coach. And I think what I notice is that as part of my work, what frequently emerges is a strong desire for women, particularly, to be freer financially. And so therefore, as part of my work, I help people understand how they can build their wealth and get a better and faster return on their money in a simple and safe and secure way.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, that's great. So obviously crypto can be quite scary. So why are banks and governments so keen to scare people off crypto, do you think?
It's a good question. I think the answer is a simple one for me. Banks want to control people's money. They always have, and they always will. They depend on people leaving their money in the bank. And currently, in my case, at less than 1% interest, which is a bit dire. So, of course, as well, they lend your money out too. So, in terms of governments, I think it's the same thing. You know, governments want to control people's assets. So crypto is a threat to that. They want to collect taxes. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with paying taxes, but crypto is a threat to that.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, the fact that, you know, the concept of peer-to-peer, which Rish mentioned earlier, you know, I pay you for a service or something that you're doing for me without it going through some sort of controlled system where it can thoroughly be scrutinized is a problem for banks and governments.
Okay. So of course, yeah, I think that's correct. So there's a lot of focus from these governments on crypto, which personally I embrace. I know that Dacxi is a business, is not anti-bank, we're not anti-government. So look, how can you, is it safe to buy it? What's the regulation? What's the security? Can you talk us a little bit around that? That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's first important to acknowledge that the fear factor, as far as it's concerned, I think it's fair to say that there have been some bad businesses, bad exchange, bad coins, bad, you know, ideas and scams out there. So you can appreciate people's hesitancy around getting involved. But regarding the safety considerations, I think the very first thing I would say is to consider how and where you store your assets, because you can store them in one places. You can store them online or offline. Now, if you choose to store them online, you know, the recommendation is to ensure the exchange, which is going to hold your crypto assets, is secure, highly secure. So check the security around that as a starting point. A lot of exchanges get hacked, so you want nothing less than an A+ security rating. Catherine, you know, I know we talk about it often, but if you could put the link to the Observatory Mozilla organization in the chat for people, so go and have a look at that. Mozilla, or Observatory Mozilla as it's known, is a completely independent site that helps people who actually build and administer websites to configure safety and security features for websites they build. So you can check any website you wish to on that particular site, and you will get a security rating. As an added protective measure, there are some exchanges that offer an additional layer of security known as two-factor authentication. So look out for that too, you know, when you're doing your research. And you know, a lot of exchanges, as I said, get hacked, but worse, they're going to lend out your assets repeatedly. So you should check those. In terms of offline, you can choose to store your crypto assets offline physically, and by that I mean on like an external device that's like a USB stick, and of course, highly optional. But By doing that, you are storing them offline, which is fine. But if you lose that little device, so goes your Bitcoin or your crypto with that. If you lose the very lengthy passwords that are required for those types of devices, again, you're going to lose your assets. So being part of a secure exchange and storing your assets online, you will always be able to access your assets, even if you forget your password.
Okay, and okay, great. So I think, yeah, very much homework, I think, and research is key there. And I think it's also key to understand that difference between a hot and a cold wallet. So even if you are storing, ask those questions of your exchange, of course. So look, I suppose some great things to sort of look out for, assuming that you can satisfy those queries. You know, what is the reason from your perspective to buy crypto, do you think?
Well, I think for me, it's about diversification, first and foremost. A way to diversify your financial portfolio. It also gives you control, and it enables you to protect your money because it's outside of the current financial systems of control that we're so used to.
Sure.
I think another reason why I would look to buy crypto is it's because of its usability.
Sure.
It's going to be alternative to money, as Rish said earlier, where you're going to be able to purchase more and more goods and services with it. And frankly, Catherine, if it's good enough for the financial institutions who are increasing their involvement daily, I would say it's definitely an asset class in its own right to look at.
Yeah. And look, I think that reflects very well into what you're saying about security. So a lot of these big institutional players, they weren't in a couple of years ago because there wasn't anything of sufficient quality. So you often hear the language institutional grade security, institutional grade exchanges. So those features perhaps weren't there 3-4 years ago to make those players come to the marketplace. And look, I've got a question that's popped in is, how is Dacxi involved in the cryptocurrency boom? And I'm very conscious today is not a big advert for Dacxi. So as a business, we've put out a lot of analysis around the crypto boom. There's a free ebook on our website, and we talk about those institutional players coming to the marketplace and providing massive inflation of price. And both Dacxi and many other industry commentators are talking about a 10 to 20-fold increase in the blue chip coins, which is Bitcoin particularly, and also Litecoin and Ethereum over the next 12 months. And loads of stuff you can find online around that. So look, Nikki, last question, 20 seconds worth. In a nutshell, why are you excited about crypto in the industry? I know you've talked around a lot, but what's kind of the single thing that makes you get up in the morning and think, great, this is amazing?
I think it's about the freedom that I have, but also I think it's going to be a prime retail currency. You know, the blue coins are going to be great as an alternative to money. So from a spending point of view, that's going to become more and more trusted as an asset class and more socially acceptable. But I also think it's great for investment purposes. You know, that's why I'm excited, because when you've got the likes of the financial institutions who are getting involved, like the New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity, Citi, JP Morgan, to name a few, and those businesses have economists that are paid millions of pounds a year, get millions of pounds in bonuses to just know what the next best thing is. Frankly, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And I think equally, I'm certainly excited about being involved with a company who I've grown to trust more and more. Their plans to list on this.
Wonderful.
So for me, it's all really positive and exciting.
Assuming you can protect yourself in all those ways that you've spoken about. Look, thank you so much, Nikki. I really appreciate you joining us. So I'll just meet you off. Elisa, could I ask you for one more question? I know that we're slightly out of sync because I missed the first one. So could I have the next question up, please, Elisa, if that's possible? Thank you so much. So look, we just wanted to ask the question about how long people listening to this call have been involved in crypto. So there's a couple of different categories. Feel free to pitch in. There are a number of very long-standing crypto investors on speakers. There are some that are less. And they'll talk about how long they've been in, the returns they've made, and what coins they've bought. So I'll just let a couple more answers trickle in. Laurie, if you could get yourself ready, my love, and unmute yourself, that would be amazing. Laurie, you're up next, my love. So look,
Ooh.
I'll just close this poll off. So look, really interesting. There's a huge variety of people on this call. Some who are yet to get involved, which is great, 13%. And look, a massive combination, which is really interesting. So thanks, guys. Thank you for your input. So just to introduce Laurie while she's getting herself ready. So Laurie is an amazing role model for women in crypto. She had a massive change of industry, as she'll tell you, after I think 4 decades of a family business, and has done extremely well out of crypto. She's got a qualified coach, both as a transformational life coach, and she also assists people getting into crypto from the ground floor. So I've asked her to talk about taking those first steps into crypto. And I think those of us that have done that can acknowledge that it's been daunting, to say the least. Not least of all when you start to tell your family and friends and they think you're absolutely mad. Once they see how you're getting on, they want to know more. So you can put a smiley face or a raise your hand or put something in the chat function if when you bought crypto, everyone that's just done that poll, you know, did someone say to you, you know, you're mentally going to lose all your money, it will never go up. I was told that by a family member who works for BlackRock, which is the world's largest financial manager. No other asset manager has more assets under management. He told me I was mental and then told me that I'd made more money than pretty much anything else he knew about, which is great. So Laurie, can I see you? Yeah, I think you're
Am I there?
you are, you're definitely there. Let me just find your lovely face. There we are, looking very glamorous today. So look, Laurie, tell us a bit about your background, my love, please.
Okay, so I grew up in the East End of London. I was in a family, for many years, we had like pet shops and businesses. So my mum used to say to us things like, you know, growing up, money doesn't grow on trees, it's hard out there, money's the root of all evil, we've got to work hard for it, you know, kind of that kind of stuff. So, and she used to say to me, you know, the best thing you can do, Laurie, is just marry someone, you're not going to be good at anything. So when I was growing up, I would kind of like doubt myself with many things that I did. But I did go on to have many successful businesses. I was in the pet trade for 4 decades, which I absolutely loved. I loved it. I mean, working with the public and animals was my passion at that time. But also, I also knew that I had a different path that was coming to me, but I was scared. I was scared of making the changes. I was scared of stepping out on my own. And when I did, it was about 10 years ago, I was really curious of why people and the results they was getting. So why do some people have money, some people don't? Why some people like have these faults of positive or negative? So that got me curious, and I started I was like a sponge to personal development, mindset, spirituality, anything like that would give me inspiration rather than somebody else saying, oh, you should do this or you should do that, because I've done that all my life and I wanted to find this out for myself. So that's what, you know, opened the doors to me. And the minute I started you know, following the laws of attraction, it changed for me. And then I knew that I had a passion and I wanted to help other people, women, men, anyone, you know, live a happy, successful life. And that's what I did. So I studied to be a life coach, and now I'm helping others wake up and live a happy, wealthy life. That's it.
Oh, inspiring stuff. Thank you. So look, I think that talks a lot about sort of why you chose to come to the table. I think a few speakers have said already today that Rich particularly said this. There's a misconception that you've got to have £20,000-30,000 to play with to get involved, and that clearly is not the case. So what do you think is kind of the simplest and most low risk way to sort of, I suppose, just try it out, really, almost just sort of have their entry level? So can you talk about that for us? That would be great.
Yeah. So when I started looking at ways to look into cryptocurrency, I'd heard it, I'd seen lots of people talking about it, but I was a little bit nervous. I'm not techie, don't do internet. I was 50 years old when I actually started it. I even got a laptop. So when I came across Dacxi and I saw the minimum risk was like £100, well, I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. For me, I spend more than that on a night out, or
hair, makeup. So yeah, worth it to me. And I see an opportunity. So that's why. So it was easy.
Okay, and look, there's lots of platforms that will let you get involved from different levels, as it were. What would you say? I think there's a misconception that if you're in crypto, you have to be a city trader, and the only way of being in crypto, even if you're a private individual, is learning how to trade it. So can you talk a bit about the difference between trading, and I think what you were telling me you've done is you've chosen to buy and keep hold of it, so a hold strategy. Can you just talk a little about that for us, please?
Yeah, so when it was coming to trading, I was always fascinated with that, but then I would look and think, oh my God, I can't do that. The fear would come in. I haven't got the education, and it all felt a little bit too difficult for me at the time. And I thought, do I really want to trade? No, I just want to put my money somewhere that's a safe haven. And that's what Dacxi's done for me. I know everyone's different. Some people might want to trade, but for me, I'll just say I was more looking for safe haven where my money would grow. And that's what I did.
Brilliant. And look, those words safe haven are very interesting. A lot of the analysis, I know Vicky was talking about how well crypto's done during the coronavirus crisis. We put out a lot of analysis around that, but particularly the blue chip cryptos, Bitcoin especially, and Litecoin and Ethereum, have been viewed as a quote safe haven, quote unquote, over the coronavirus. And look, we lost 25% on the stock market in the UK over, almost overnight. So lots of people, whether it's private individuals or people for pension planning, we're going to talk about pensions at the end of this presentation. So look, could you tell us why you're excited personally and where you see crypto as an industry going?
Well, I'm excited because since I've switched into that, I've increased my wealth, and which is what I was longing for the last couple of years was financial freedom, security, and I wanted that wealth that I could relax and have money, multiple sources of income. So me personally, I see it replacing the money, the traditional money, and I see everyone using it, and I just feel this is a right place, right time, right now. And if anyone was listening to this, I would just say, if you're looking to increase your wealth, get involved. What's the worst? Educate yourself, get involved. Best thing I ever did. Best thing. Yeah,
what's the worst that can happen from finding out? And look, I'm not asking you for numbers because that's no one else's business, but could you tell us just in terms of percentage wise what growth you've seen, obviously not asking for numbers, but just percentage wise, how your portfolio of crypto has performed, and just over what period of time roughly?
In 9 months, it's gone up like 4 times. So what would be see, I'm not even great on all that, but it's exceeded every single expectation. I'm financially free, so I'm more than happy.
Excellent. Look, thanks, Laurie. I really appreciate you spending time with us today and providing such an inspirational story. So I'll mute you off. Very good. Elisa, we're now on the right questions in the right order, which was my fault to start with. So Elisa, please could I ask you to load poll question 4? So we've done that one. Excellent, that's the one. Thank you very much. So we wanted to ask, I know that we've talked about the problems that people face in their crypto career. So we wanted to ask, what is the primary factor limiting your crypto career? So the main thing that's holding you back from being involved, doing more of it. So just choose the one that I think most resonates with you. I know for many people there'll be perhaps more than one or a couple. So yeah, just keen to hear what's the major concern for people on this call today. So I'll just let a few more trickle in. So Shireen, my love, you're up next. Could I ask you to unmute yourself and get ready to speak? That would be absolutely marvellous. Just give you some prior warning. Just add a couple more tickle in. So look, really interesting. The primary things causing concern are lack of funds and lack of knowledge. So again, that lack of knowledge very much fits into the data we've seen around education, and why I joined Dacxi in February of this year, and we are aggressively education-led. We're an education-led business that happens to have a platform rather than the other way around. Oh, Laura, you're getting loads of love on the chat. Thanks so much, everybody, for your comments. Right, so let's close that poll. So Shireen, hopefully you're nearly ready to speak. I can see you there, which is great. So to introduce Shireen, give her proper holding slide. So really excited Shireen's here. She's had a very varied career. And most recently, she's done a lot of work on the female crypto investing community. There's a bewildering amount of coins out there, thousands and thousands, and Shireen has personally invested and done well. So I've asked her to talk a bit about the various coins that are out there, some of the considerations you would have in choosing, and with thousands to choose from, I think certainly all coins are not created equal. So her section is called Coins, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So you're off mute, which is wonderful. So whilst I pin you to this presentation, could you just tell us a bit about your background, please, Shireen? That would be great.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for inviting me. And hi, everyone. It's really brilliant to be here. Yeah, my background is that I started my sort of first career was a nurse, and I kind of moved from there to going into sort of alternative health. More involved with NLP, psychotherapy route. And then I decided at the age of 50 to go and study. So I got my psychology degree and I did cognitive neuroscience. And my real interest is in working with women. I mean, I was a midwife, so women are very much part of everything that I do. And I started to focus very much on how women actually thrive in the world. And we have come up at it historically, always been in a space where money hasn't been a very, very big part of our factor. We've kind of traded security in a way for the money. So men have been the providers generally, and women have been the providers of children. So there's this kind of discrepancy, sort of mutual agreement. But what often happens is when things go bad, guess what? Women suffer. And so thankfully now women are moving up and up, and crypto seems to be one of the powerful things that we can do to create this equilibrium.
So there's a lot of talk around in any financial downturn, it's not distributed equally. So there's a lot of evidence that those at the bottom of the economic pile get hit harder, which unfortunately tends to be women. So look, can you tell us a bit about why you chose to get involved in crypto? Personally, I know you talk about that you've bought coins. What made you think, yes, this is something I want to do from a personal perspective?
Well, when I first, there's something about virtual money. There's something lovely about something that's virtual and connected. That's what I really, really liked. And I think that what's got me really interested a long time ago, but I didn't get onto the market then, and it went up and down. And when a friend of mine just sort of said, there's this company and it's crypto, I literally jumped straight on, because I just knew that now was the opportunity, and it was easy, and it was, and there was a platform that I could get on, and I took it, I jumped. And for me, it was really about financial freedom, a start for the financial freedom, but also I could see the writing on the wall. I could see that everything was getting more and more digital. I'm nearly 60. So from the time of my birth to now, it's becoming more and more digital. It's become more and more sort of intangible, the finances. So I just knew this is the next thing.
So the next kind of wave of adoption. Yeah.
It wasn't a wave of adoption. So for me, it was something I just knew was going to happen. And when I had this opportunity, I jumped.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, well look, I wanted you to talk about the various coins. I know that you've told me privately that you have bought a number of different coins. I get quite annoyed when Bitcoin and crypto are used interchangeably, because they're two different things. And obviously Bitcoin is kind of the poster child, if you like. It's doing very well. There's a lot of talk around the Bitcoin halving, which is coming up soon, that we're putting out a lot of content around. So tell me a bit about Bitcoin and why it's so prevalent, please.
Right. So as you've said, Bitcoin is the poster child. It was the first coin that was kind of, well, let's say the cryptocurrency, in the sense of Bitcoin, was the first kind of poster child. And when Bitcoin came out, basically it was a kind of a space where it was going to be on the blockchain, and it was a set of people that created this because they wanted to create a sort of a fairer system for in the industry. And basically it is 66% of the market, Bitcoin.
Oh, at least,
And
yeah,
the largest
least,
volume of the currency. Yeah. And there's only 21 million that will ever be circulated, so it's going to go up in price. So, and it's going to have a huge value, and certainly it has the most research. So if anybody's going to look into things, Bitcoin would probably be where you would be safest.
You start,
but,
because there's more information.
A good start. Yeah. But there are lots of currencies. I mean, we know that we're over 5,000 different kinds of cryptocurrencies on the crypto market. Yeah.
Sure.
And so look, you want to go for the ones that are safer.
Yeah, sure. I think that was an obvious next question. So when someone wakes up and says, "Oh, look, I'm going to get into crypto," what would you say to the question? Do I buy Bitcoin? Do I buy other coins? How do I formulate a strategy and choose between those coins? Can you just talk a little bit around that, please?
Yeah, I mean, basically what you want to think about, what are the ones that are the most used? Yeah, the ones that have some sort of, we talk about a use case, which would be something in the idea that there's an accepted sort of relationship between you using this, and it's an accepted that this equated across is how that product can be used. So if you think of gold, we use gold in place of something, but Bitcoin can be used in place of gold. So that's really what the use case is. It's what's accepted that allows this particular token to be used for this amount.
So to look into the use cases. Okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, there is what's called a white paper. So every time a coin is created, people put together information around what it will be used for. At Dacxi, we have a bundle product which splits people that use our platform between the blue chips, which is Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. But certainly, I agree with you that doing that homework, which is exactly what Nikki was saying, is key.
Yeah.
So look, last question. I know you've touched on it a little bit already, but what drives your excitement about crypto, and where do you think it's going as an industry in the short and medium term?
Well, I think the fact is that, it's going to change in many different ways. One is this idea that we have this community that we can use, in essence, in crypto. We also know that, how many of us now, with what's happened with COVID, how many of us are actually using coins? We're not using money anymore. We're using everything online. Everything is digital. And I can certainly see that it's going to be, for me, I do think it's going to be the way we're going to operate in the future.
And look, I'm really sorry, Shireen. I have to acknowledge that you asked me to share a slide, and whilst we were talking, I'd forgotten to do it. So huge apologies. I've got two screens and an iPad, and my technology isn't quite working how I want it to today. So huge apologies. So one of the things Shireen asked me to show was the performance over some coins that you have personally got involved with. I prepared this yesterday, forgive me, I've been very busy this morning getting people from all over the world on this call. So these figures are over 1 year, and I created them yesterday. And there were 3 coins you picked out, one at 56% growth, one at 27, one at 263. So I think that very much what you're saying about do your homework, pick the right things. Of course, the currency is volatile. Of course, there are some coins that have gone down. So look, I know you wanted me to share. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? I'm so sorry I forgot to share it earlier.
That's no problem. Well, I think it's really good. We can see, we know that Bitcoin's halving, but we can see that in actual fact, DAC, which is our community coin, has actually gone up. And certainly we know that in the market, as you mentioned earlier on, is that in fact Bitcoin has been progressively, well, let's say cryptocurrencies, they have done that, we're looking at the trend. They go up and they come down, they go up and they come down, but in general, everything is going up. And whereas all other assets are not at the minute. And I think it'll take a long while for property, shares, other kinds of assets to come up. But we can see here that most of the cryptocurrencies are recovering really,
Doing well.
really, really well.
Yeah, and look, doing better than vanilla investment.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about a lot as business is the switch from cash to crypto. So as I mentioned, hardly anyone that we meet through Dacxi is a long-term investor. They're often new to the party, and all of them are switching some of their cash to crypto, and particularly with those figures, that tells the reason why. So clearly you're doing very well as a crypto, as a coach and as a crypto coach. So look, thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to mute you off. If you would like to put any comments about what Sharina said, please feel free to put them in the chat. Elisa has very kindly shared the Opzilla observatory link, which checks out security on websites. Forgive me, I know Nikki said I'd do it. Unfortunately, I can't whilst I'm hosting without turning everything off, which is a bit antisocial. So feel free to click on that. One of the things that's very interesting is to put in every single different crypto exchange. You can get a security rating there. And one of the things that I do, because I'm a bit of a nerd, is I put in high street banks. I bank with Halifax, and worryingly that has an F rating, which is not good. So thanks for that, Elisa. If I could ask Elisa, my glamorous assistant, to do the next poll question, please. If that's okay to line that up, please, Elisa, that would be marvellous. Which is about whether you intend to purchase coins in the next 12 months and the level at which you'd be looking to do that. So there's lots of people here from different jurisdictions, as you can tell from the first question that we asked. So if you can just do that in your local currency. So there's a dollar sign and a sterling sign, whatever your local currency is, if you could use that, that would be brilliant. So I'll just let those trickle in. Whilst we're doing that, can I ask Susan, could you make yourself unmuted and get ready to speak? That would be absolutely marvellous. Oh, I can see you. There you are. Not your first rodeo. Very good. Thank you very much. We'll just let a couple more of these poll questions come in. And interesting, look, there's quite a lot of real interest in crypto. Thanks for sharing that, Elisa. That's amazing. So look, we talked about that the entry level is £100 or $100 or even less. And look, interesting that people are fairly enthusiastic between 100 and 1,000, or between 1,000 and 10,000. They are fairly evenly split, which is really interesting. Great, thank you very much, guys. So on to Susan. Let me just put you over here. So look, to introduce Susan, she is a woman of many talents. She sent us her bio, and it was probably a 2-hour presentation in its own right. So the truncated version is she's a teacher, a coach, a healer, a therapist, a qualified NLP practitioner, a speaker, and not to mention a #1 best-selling author and poet. She's got an amazing personal story, which I know she'll be kind enough to share with us today. And I'm sure she won't mind me saying that it's fair to say she's faced some challenges that I'm sure many of us can relate to, me included. So look, thank you very much for joining us. Please tell us a bit about your background.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you all here, and thank you for the chair. I was born in Africa, in Zimbabwe, brought up in Malawi, Zambia, all the different places you can think of. South Africa, I went and did my tertiary education after school in Zimbabwe, and I'm qualified in commercial art, advertising and marketing, and then carried on to study as a teacher and then further into journalism. And then later on, I felt that after working for royalty, I felt I didn't really want to create educational plans for their children anymore. I wanted to get out of all of that and go and train in what was my passion, and that was in transformational coaching. And basically, that was because I felt that my mission on earth was to uplift people.
Very good.
In particular, women.
Excellent. So look, what made you get in, so a very varied CV, as I mentioned, what made you get involved in crypto?
Well, it's quite a long story, and I won't go into that because, as you say, it could take up your whole...
Okay.
My husband died 4 years ago, And after he died, I very sadly, in the first week that he was had died, I discovered he had been blackmailed. And everything I'd worked for and believed in, and I'd been brought up in the old-fashioned way where the woman she looks after the children and does all of that, but she also sends the money home to hubby and he looks after it. And basically there wasn't anything after he died, not much anyway. And it was a bit of a shock. And I moved into thinking, how could I get around this? And I went back to work for a while and then suddenly realized that the world was really changing because of the advent of internet, and started to realize what was really going on with the with currency, and started watching what was going on. And I moved into studying where I should go and how I should figure out how to do this, because I was very determined to learn, because I'd been living in little cotton wool balls because my husband had been looking after me. So I started to go into that, and very sadly I actually signed up with a rogue platform, and the little I did have I lost. That didn't stop me. It got me thinking, there's no ways this is going to get me or any other, in particular woman who is 50 plus, because we're the biggest targets of that sort of field of scamming. And I really started to look into it. And
so sort of pension planning was your...
It was
coming up soon, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was very important that I knew what to do about a pension, because I had no pension.
Sure. Okay.
Everything had been depleted. And so 9 months ago, I invested in this amazing platform. And I'm very thrilled to say that it's quadrupled since I've invested.
So you used a platform to buy a selection of different coins? Would that be, so across a number? Okay, great.
Yes, I did. And I also purchased the coin that's associated to the platform as well, because once I got into the platform, I realized that they had fantastic educational material, and I started to learn, and it's written in a way that's very easy to understand.
Sure. So it's accessible and
yeah, and I needed to do that. And the other thing, Catherine, is the administration and the people who belong to this particular platform are fabulous people. They are very accessible. You can talk to them face to face.
And you wanted that contact to ask questions and feel comfortable. And
well, I certainly did, because I'd been scammed before, and I wasn't going to have that anymore. And it affected not just me, it affected other people as well.
And presumably you wanted someone local, because one of the challenges with crypto is some of those exchanges are based in very far-flung places with, very little regulation. So would I right in thinking you wanted someone on the floor in your home country that you could talk to?
In fact, the CEO told me a story, and it made me smile. He said to me, Susan, unless you shake the hand with the person who's created the company and you get to know them, then it's not really worth it. And I've shaken his hand, and the hand of his lovely wife as well. So
can I just ask you a question? You talked about a fourfold increase. So you're talking about that you woke up and you had to do some pension planning. You didn't have very much time to play with. You didn't want to retire when you're 85. And forgive me, I don't know the answer to this in the territory you're in. So you've made 4 times your initial investment. What else would have been available to you? So from a vanilla point of view, presumably that would have gone down had you gone down to the traditional stocks and shares route in the country you're in. Forgive me, I'm not an expert on what's going on in your country right now.
Well, absolutely. In fact, my money's in the UK, so the little I do have there in an investment certainly is not what I have invested in. Okay.
So it hasn't gone up fourfold because certainly the FTSE hasn't gone up fourfold over a year. I know
absolutely. Not.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Well, look, last question. I know I've asked everyone this. Why are you personally excited? What's the one thing, and where can you see crypto going as an industry in the short and medium term?
I am extremely excited with this particular company, because they have an incredible affiliate a program, which during COVID-19, I've noticed I've had more and more people approach me and say, I haven't got work. And
Sure.
I can empower people as a crypto coach and lead affiliate by telling them that there's a simple way of getting into doing something that can become their business.
Sure.
And it's wonderful to uplift and see people breathe a big sigh of relief and think, okay, well, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because
So
many
you've
people...
you've taken your experience,
Yes.
and you've been able to recommend and refer friends and family and contacts, and you've made some money presumably in referral bonus for that.
Yes, I have. And
so you've earned twice then. Once as the growth and once as the referral. Oh, wonderful.
I have.
Okay, very good.
The other thing, Catherine, is the learning and educational material it's all there, right down
Sure.
to templates for emails. It's incredibly good. And the backup from the administration as well, they pop back an email to you in no time at all. You don't get that with other platforms.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, look, I don't want to steal too much thunder from Sarah, who's the speaker we're going to have, who's our last speaker, who'll talk about growing a crypto business. But look, thank you very much for talking about your experience. I'll just mute Susan off. Feel free to show your appreciation or ask her any questions in the chat function. So Dee, if I could ask Dee to make herself unmuted and get ready, that would be marvelous. I know I saw her online earlier. So just to introduce Dee, she is very much involved in crypto as a side interest. She has a busy day job, but she's got some great experience in using crypto as her pension planning. So she's well placed to talk about the performance it's given her versus traditional investments. So Dee is based in Australia, and Australia has a very specific structure called the super fund, sometimes referred to as supers. But I think very much like Susan, who's talking about her money in the UK, I think Dee's story is very applicable for anyone who is looking to use crypto as planning for the long term and for their older age. So I will just pin Dee. So hi Dee, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. Could you just tell us a little bit about your background, please?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Catherine, and I'm very excited to be on the call. It's very inspiring to hear other women's stories as well. Well, so my background is I'm born and bred in Austria with a stay-at-home mum, and my dad was working for the government. And by trade, I'm actually a chemical engineer. So I studied chemistry, and I worked in research for 7 years. And during those years, I also trained as a constellation facilitator. Constellation work is a Gestalt therapeutic tool, fairly well known in Europe. What really changed then for me, I fell in love with an Aussie. And so just over a decade ago, I actually moved to Australia. And since then, I've been involved in different kinds of work. I was building an online business with my husband. And I've been working as an executive assistant and a PA, and also do family constellations workshops. And one other big interest of mine is actually security. I'm also currently licensed as a Queensland security officer. I have different security licenses. And I'm also trained to conduct online investigations, actually. So that's a personal interest of mine that I also do part-time. There's quite a bit of different...
busy lady, as we all are.
Yeah, very busy. Very busy.
The best multitaskers, as if you could see my tech setup today, you would know. So look, can you talk to us about why you personally got involved in crypto? You're obviously super busy. You've got many strings to your bow. What made you
that also came about after I moved to Australia, and my hubby is a trader, and one of the things that I got really interested with, partly of what he was trading, is to educate myself about money and the financial system. And what I learned, because I didn't have that education before, we don't usually learn it in school, how money is created. I didn't like so much, mostly because I realized that what I thought how money was created is actually not how it works. It's not backed up by gold anymore. And it's been for quite a while. And what that creates is these bubbles that burst from time to time, which, you know, totally makes sense. And currently, I mean, right now with COVID-19, we are in one of those stages where it's bursting, and you can see the bad news on the news. I don't want to go into it, but with all of that looming over my head, the first crypto I bought was 3 years ago.
Wow, okay.
It was Bitcoin, and I think back then it was quite tedious and very complicated. So it's certainly moved on from there to now companies offering a much easier way of getting involved.
Okay, wonderful. So so tell us, you bought Bitcoin. Have you gone on to buy other coins, or have you just focused on the Bitcoin?
Well, at the beginning, we bought Bitcoin and a few other coins. And at that stage, it was from our personal money. And then quite a few, a few years ago, I also set up a self-managed super fund. And, you know, as you mentioned, a super fund in Australia is your pension retirement money. So it's actually mandatory. It's a 9.5%, I think at the moment it is, goes directly into your super fund. So that doesn't go as a wage into your bank account. It goes directly to what's called a super fund. Now, most super funds, you know, they're corporations, and they would invest your super fund money into the classical assets, which would be property and stock. There's also commodities and a few others, but the majority is in properties and stock. And I didn't want this to be invested in these asset classes because I didn't trust it. And I had a feel already back then that, for one, I wanted to buy precious metals, which is what I did mostly.
Okay.
And then also invest into crypto further down the track.
Oh, very good. Okay, so you've talked about it briefly, but can you talk about the kind of performance you've had from the crypto that you've invested in?
Yeah, so a few months ago, I was able to connect my self-managed super fund with the Dacxi platform, and bought a bundle with it. So the bundle is, as you mentioned already, it's the biggest 3 blue chip coins: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, plus also the Dacxi coin, and that has performed really, really well. We have when the stock market dropped here about 30%, I think it was in March.
About the same as us.
Yeah, that's right. We are all sitting in the same boat, aren't we?
Of course, yeah.
Our super funds went actually up 30% because
from the
precious
crypto
metals and the crypto. It's both. It's the entirety.
Oh, wonderful.
And so that was really wonderful. And just a few days ago, my husband checked again, and now it's up 66%.
Wow. And sorry, over what period?
We're talking about 3 months now.
Gosh, okay. So really benefiting from that volatility,
so.
Which I think we have to acknowledge is out there.
Right.
And presumably you can cash out if you thought, right, great run. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that the Bitcoin halving will cause more growth, but if you wanted to get out, to take out of crypto and back into cash, you'd be able to do that, presumably.
Yes, it would be very easy. Yes.
Wonderful. So it seems a bit of a weird question to ask why you're excited. I suppose the answer is the 60-odd%. So I think probably I'll shorten that question. Say your last question very briefly, where do you see crypto going as an industry, please?
Yeah, so crypto for me is the currency of the future. I mean, a lot has been already said today on this call, and I concur with all of it. I mean, just the fact that big institutions, the central banks, are starting to have their own pilot projects in digital currency, that gives me the confidence that that this is a growing market, and it's literally a new asset class. And now we are still in fairly early stages. I wouldn't say we are the earliest adopters, obviously not, because Bitcoin has been around for quite a while, but we are certainly on the forefront. It's not mainstream yet, so now is certainly a good time to go in before the classic wealth bubbles burst. So I see.
And also, look, there's a lot of I mentioned this 10 to 20-fold increase that's talked around a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do see written, and I passionately believe it's been proven, is the cryptos are talked about as a once in a generation wealth opportunity. And look, if you're looking at that 66% growth, I think you're a great example of that. So something for us all to look at. Look, thank you so much, Dee, for staying up late to talk to us, because it's super late for you, as it is for many people on this call. So I will say thank you. Mute Dee off. She's on the ask her any questions. Elisa, if I could just ask you to pop up question 6, please. That's our final poll question before we go on to our final speaker. So Sarah, could you just get yourself ready, my love? That would be perfect. So look, we wanted to ask about whether crypto is featuring your long-term wealth and pension planning. Look, loads of people on this call clearly very interested in the topic, hence why you're all dialed in. But look, really keen to see what the response is there, which is great. So look, I want to just let a few more tickle in. Let's share those results. So yeah, 97% using crypto for long-term wealth, which is wonderful, and actually takes us away from that focus of it being volatile or short-term or for trading. As a business, Dacxi very much is involved in the sorts of platform users that want to hold for longer, which is great. So thank you very much, Elisa. So Sarah, if I could just ask you to unmute yourself, my love, and get ready. I'm just trying to find Sarah. Where have you gone? I think, oh, I can hear you. There you are. So we've got not only probably one of the most interesting speakers, but definitely the most glamorous. So I will just pin your video and put you up here. So to introduce Sarah, she has a number of business interests, which I know she'll tell you about. One of those is being paid to refer her contacts to open a crypto wallet and get involved, very much along the lines of what Susan was talking about. I really like the quote that your net wealth is the sum of your network. And I know that Vicky was talking a lot about leveraging your social contacts. So I've invited Sarah to talk about finding support for your crypto journey, which I think can be a quite intimidating and lonely place, and really how she's made money both as buying coins and as recommending. So over to you, Sarah. Could you tell us a little bit about your background, please?
Hi, yeah, my name's Eire and I'm from Glasgow, so I'm going to do my best to talk as slowly as possible because I do have quite a broad accent, so I hope you can understand me. I left school about 15 years old, and for the past 14 years I've been working as a makeup artist, a beauty therapist and hair extension specialist. I'm mum to a 16-year-old daughter, a dog and a cat. I also decided to venture into a new space with Krypto, and I also have another business that I basically help people create their own business from home, that they work, they work alongside their current jobs and existing businesses as well.
So just sort of extra income streams, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So tell us, why and how did you personally get involved in crypto? It's a great story of how you came on board. So could you just tell us a little bit about that, please?
Okay, so my dad was the one who found out about this opportunity first of all, and he kept badgering me about it, and at first I wasn't too interested. I knew that people had made a lot of money through crypto, and I did want to get involved, but I did find it really confusing, to be honest, and really intimidating. So, I just kind of left it until my dad introduced me to this last year. One of the reasons why I got involved was because it was so simple. They really did kind of, break down the complex barriers of being able to get involved. And the second reason for me was it was just so simple in the fact that you only had to put in £100. So I just got a few £100 and popped it in to get started. And that's all you need.
Okay, very good. So I think that's a great example of people in crypto often go on recommendation and referral, which I think, as someone who's female, I've got loads of WhatsApp group chats. You know, if I want a recommendation on anything, I'll tend to ask friends I think may know. So can you talk about how you sort out that learning? I know we've talked a lot today about educating yourself. How did you personally start that journey and you know, sort of find and embrace that information? Could you just talk a little bit about that for me, please?
Okay, so at first I was totally clueless. I didn't have a clue about any of the terminology. I didn't know what a blockchain was or anything. So I did ask my dad quite a lot in the beginning. After that, I sought out learning through Dacxi's education online. It was all free. I also sought out learning through some groups on Reddit and Facebook that I'm now a part of as well. Generally, when you know, I wanted to find something out, I would Google it and read some articles on it, and this was all done in my spare time, very easily. You know, spend a little bit when I can, basically.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're all busy, aren't we? Through numerous things. So obviously you have grown a successful business introducing people to crypto. So I don't want you to talk about necessarily sort of who you're using and why, but talk a bit about how you've grown that business and how you've made money from that. That would be great.
First of all, I was quite excited about it because I seen the potential and I started to see the gains quite quickly. So for me, it was really easy to, you know, reach out to friends and family and just chat to them about what was happening. Then my dad forced me into doing a bit of networking. Strangers. And when I got to meet some strangers along the way, I was, you know, sharing my enthusiasm basically. And yeah, I just spoke away and that was it. It became quite easy to do it.
Very good. I think that's what Vicky was saying earlier, is that women tend to be the natural networkers. So look, if you were going to get involved, I mean, obviously, if you've done well yourself and made those gains, I can imagine Dee saying, I've made 66%, come talk to me about it. If you're going to start getting involved in that, what makes a good product? What kind of support do you need? You know, what is sort of the best business to get involved with from that perspective? What were you looking for support wise?
For me, something that was easy to understand, something that was simple to use, because that's why I didn't get involved before, because everything was so complex to me.
Sure.
But you need something simple, and you know, you need a little bit of support as well, and people to help you and answer questions that you might have. And I had a lot of them at the beginning, a lot.
Sure. Okay, very good. And what kind of advice? We talk a lot about the first step is always the hardest. It's quite a scary and daunting thing to get into. What advice would you give someone that's looking to get started?
Just educate yourself a little bit more. Maybe speak to someone who's already involved, who can, you know, guide you and help you. You know, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, for example, to get involved. The investment's really low, a lot lower than what you might think. So it's really easy for most people to be able to do this.
And would you mind me asking what you got started with? What was your first sort of toe in the water?
So I put in a few £100, and I had a
very good
pack, and that was me. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, excellent. So look, last question for the day. Tell us why you're excited about crypto and where you feel it's going as an industry.
I feel like the fiat system is sort of failing us a little bit. I feel like people are losing a lot of trust within the banking systems. So crypto being digital, you know, it's more of a fair sort of system, and it's really, really secure as well. I do see it taking off, and I would like to see it take over the traditional sort of system that we have. I don't know if that will. I definitely see more and more people starting to put their trust into cryptocurrencies as opposed to banks now. Okay,
wonderful. Look, thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. It's great that you've had the performance you've had, and I'm just wonderful that you're managing to grow business. So I will mute Sarah off. So Sarah will be on the chat function, so feel free to make any comment on what she had to say, or indeed chat to her. So look, I was told to keep today to move quite quickly, so this is the end of our presentation. I'm just gonna load the chat function, which my Zoom doesn't want to do. So look, any further questions, now is the time to put them in the chat. So just all really remains for me to say is a massive thank you So many inspirational stories today and this evening. A huge thank you to all of the speakers that have been so generous with their time and expertise. As you can imagine, it took quite a lot to put the event together today. A huge thank you to my Dacxi team that have moved heaven and earth to deliver this event. Elisa and Kate specifically. Kate's on all social media. Elisa, unfortunately, has been trying to manage technology, which I've been doing a great job of getting wrong. Also Vicky and Shamiz, all people that stood up super late. They're in New Zealand, so it's well past their bedtime. And a big shout out to Lena, who holds the fort in the UK, who's been very quiet, but I think she's on. So look, whether or not you're early in your journey or you're well established, I really hope you enjoyed today's content. We will record this session and send it around, so feel free to share it. We'll be uploading it to various places. So as we always say, sharing is caring. Please look out for all the future events that Dacxi is proud to facilitate and sponsor. We see ourselves as an education-led company that happens to be in crypto, and we seek to be the leading company to provide that for free and in an easily accessible way and at sensible times of the day. The Women Who Crypto movement will be meeting next Thursday, Thursday the 14th. It's purely a social meetup. It's not going to have formal speakers or any information or be a seminar. It literally is just run by the members, informally, one in Australia, one in the UK. If you look out for our social media and our website at dacxi.com, we have an events page, so you'll see more information there. So it'll be a super chill session and just more of a chat. And that's probably both the smallest and the biggest plug that I am able to get away with. So look, thank you so much for attending. Hope to see you all online soon, and enjoy a glass of wine for those of you that are on the right side of the world. See you all soon. Bye guys.
Thank you.